Part 174. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1731. It was the second time to fly, and several children were still very excited. Lu Erxian felt like he had a needle stuck in his butt. He couldn't sit still. He lay on the window and looked out at the snow-white clouds below. He was fascinated by it. After a while, he turned to Feng Qingxiu and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I will also fly a plane." Seeing that Feng Qingxiu didn't respond, he repeated it loudly. Feng Qingxiu was putting several bottles of mutai issued on the plane into the suitcase one by one, wrapped in clothes that she was not wearing for the time being to separate the distance between them to prevent them from being broken. She plans to keep these wines as a collection. Even if she doesn't care about the appreciation in value, it will be very honorable to entertain guests in the future. There are some things that money may not be able to buy since ancient times. When she heard about Xiong's son's ambition, she didn't even raise her head. She closed her suitcase and said, "Okay, you can become an Air Force pilot in the future, but the selection of Air Force pilots is very strict. It will depend on whether you have this ability. You are still young, and it is not too late to work hard from now on. Can you guarantee that you will study hard and make progress every day?" Lu Erxian's brows furrowed as soon as he heard about studying. Feng Qingxiu also had a headache. Among the children, he was the one who didn't like studying and couldn't calm down. Wang Quilin said, "Many boys are like this. They didn't like it when they were young, or their academic performance was not good. When they get older, they will improve by leaps and bounds. How can any of our children not be smart? Even if they are influenced by what they hear and see, they can learn better than other children. Third aunt, don't spoil him like this. He will get spoiled. He will have to be disciplined when I get back." Feng Qingxiu secretly made a decision. She will be seconded to the South China Sea Fleet this year. She is still on annual leave. Let's see if she can do it at the end of the year. After taking a month off, Erxian must cultivate his interest in reading no matter what. If he has no interest, he will naturally read reluctantly. Interest is the best teacher. Wang Quilin wanted to say something else, but was pulled back by Cheng Baoqiu. "Okay, let's take care of the children when we get old. It's better for parents to worry about school matters." Wang Quilin listened and swallowed what she wanted to say. That's true. If Er Xiong's grades are not good, he will gradually lose confidence. Not to mention Zibao, who is far away in his hometown. Yayan, Fuebao, Dun Dun, and Zhuang all love to learn, and their knowledge reserves and insights are far superior to those of their peers. Fuebao has studied calligraphy and painting for several years and is quite good at it. Although Dun and Zhuang were also enlightened, they did not show any special interest. However, the two brothers had good grades and good calligraphy skills. If things go on like this, Lu Erxian will be compared worse and worse. Lu Erxian was not stupid, so he naturally understood what his mother and grandparents meant. His face instantly turned into a bitter gourd, and he felt that he would be in dire straits in the future. His bitter gourd face didn't even open until he got off the plane. Fu Bao didn't care about him at all and waved vigorously to Lu Zhang, who came to pick them up. "Dad." Lu Erxian rushed to the front like a rabbit, rushed to Lu Zhang, and asked for credit. "Dad, I brought my mother home. Do you think I am great? I can do things that you can't even do." Several cotters who got off the plane with them almost burst out laughing. It was a long journey, and most of them were acquaintances, and even those I didn't know became acquainted with each other on the plane. They are all leaders in all walks of life, and most of them are military officers. Lu Zhang said hello one by one. In the meantime, the young man who had been hiding behind him came out. He had a white shirt, gray trousers, a slender figure, a handsome face, flying eyebrows, bright eyes, and a gentle temperament. All of them showed to Feng Qingxiu and others the sense of familiarity they brought to them. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1732. Happy baby. Feng Qingxiu was surprised and happy, her heart almost jumped out of her chest, her joy was indescribable. Brother, several children shouted in unison, cheering and rushing to him to surround him. Lu Erxian even hugged his waist and abandoned Lu Jiang ruthlessly. Lu Jiang's face was already dark, but now it's getting darker. Zibao's arms were held by Dun Dun and Zhuang respectively, holding them tightly, making it difficult for him to move even an inch. He had no choice but to smile at Bao, who couldn't catch up with him, with soft eyes that seemed to comfort him. Then, he looked up at Feng Qingxiu. Mom, are you happy to see me? Happy, I'm so happy. Feng Qingxiu threw her luggage to the guard and walked quickly to her eldest son. As time went by, although the child's facial features were still very similar to Lu Jiang's, his lines were different. He is softer than Lu Jiang. One of the father and son is handsome and tough, while the other is handsome and tends to be gentle. Lu Jiang had already greeted everyone and came over and said, Zibao said he wanted to give you a surprise. So, it wasn't that he didn't tell his wife on purpose. Feng Qingxiu rolled her eyes at him, stretched out her hand to touch her eldest son's face, and straightened the collar of his shirt. Where is your grandfather? Is he also in the capital? Is it the capital from home, or the army that went first? Zibao smiled and said, during the holidays, my grandfather and I went to the army together. I came to the capital with my father and currently live in Uncle Jiang's house. Uncle Jiang is Jiang Yun. After Jiang Xiaoyu married Lu Tianjun, she naturally paid attention to her title. Feng Qingxiu hummed, then you should have met Chen Chen. From the time Chen Chen was born to now, he has been living in your Uncle Jiang's house. I have never seen him. I only have the photos sent by your sister-in-law Xiaoyu. She looks like sister-in-law Xiaoyu, only her eyebrows and eyes resemble her elder brother. As Zibao spoke, he finally broke free from the encirclement. Lu Jiang stretched out his hand to support Feng Qingxiu's arm. Get in the car, we'll talk about it when we get back. The group of people left the airport by car and went to his residence first to rest for a while and take care of themselves. Then they headed to Jiang's house, carrying 2 bottles of Maotai that they planned to collect and 2 large bags of fruit, and bought more on the way. Order overpriced items for kids to eat? Jiang Yun was not at home, but Jiang Xiaoyu was there, with her right arm in a plaster hanging on her chest. Feng Qingxiu was taken aback. She ignored Father Lu, who was sitting on the sofa teasing his grandnephew, and asked hurriedly, Xiaoyu, what's wrong with your arm? Jiang Xiaoyu shrugged and said nonchalantly, in order to save a recruit, he was injured, suffered a comminuted fracture, and broke 2 tendons. Although he had asked the best doctor in the military hospital to perform an operation to reattach the bones and tendons, he still would be injured. The doctor said that he will not be able to do heavy work in the future and will not be able to stay in the army. Feng Qingxiu felt extremely distressed. How long has it been? Does it hurt? Your uncle didn't even tell me when he saw me. What happened 2 months ago no longer hurts. And, you don't have to worry. Jiang Xiaoyu was still very cheerful and optimistic, comforting, it's good to retire. I finally have time to accompany Chen Chen every day. And, you haven't seen Chen Chen with your own eyes, have you? Come on, look at your obedient grandnephew. Grandpa said he is as obedient as Zibao was when he was a child. After saying that, Jiang Xiaoyu waved to her son, Chen Chen, come here, let second grandma hug you. The words second grandma almost caused Feng Qingxiu internal injuries. Is she already that old? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1733. Lu Chen was already 2 years and a few months old. He was white and tender. He was wearing a navy uniform and looked even more adorable. He ran over obediently and looked up at Feng Qingxiu with his little face raised. He looked left and right and read the word grandma. Just didn't scream. Feng Qingxiu knelt down with a gentle expression on her face. Chen, grandma, would you like to treat you to some fruit? Lu Chen shook his head and said, it's not grandma. Feng Qingxiu was stunned, and Zhang Xiaoyu couldn't help but laugh. Chen, grandma is young and beautiful, and has good skin. She doesn't look like an old grandma. In fact, you have to call her grandma. If you call her second grandma, I'll give you some fruit to eat. Lu Chen bit his finger, looked at Feng Qingxiu, and then at Zhang Xiaoyu, who was obviously darker and rougher than her. How could Zhang Xiaoyu not see what her son was thinking? He urged, hurry up and call me second grandma. Second grandma, Lu Chen said in a milky voice, especially soft and waxy. Hey, Chen is so good, grandma loves you. Feng Qingxiu responded, picked him up with both hands, and asked Lu Zhang to handle the few large coconuts he had brought, and poured out the coconut juice for everyone to share. Lu Chen held the cup and drank happily, with 2 blushes on his cheeks. Feng Qingxiu greeted Lu's father, and after sitting down, she asked Zhang Xiaoyu about Zhang Yun and Lu Tianjun. After many years of separation, there is naturally endless things to say. Zhang Xiaoyu smiled and said, my dad is busy. He has not been seen every day. He has not come back for at least 10 days. Tianwan is on a mission and is not in the military area. He was promoted to battalion commander this year and is in charge of a battalion of soldiers. The task on his shoulders is not light. Feng Qingxiu was very happy after hearing this. Lu Tianjun is only 26 or 17 years old this year, and he is really impressive for the position of battalion commander. Although Lu Zhang was already the deputy commander when he was 28, which was higher than Lu Tianjun's current rank and had a military rank, the uncle and nephew lived in different eras. Did Lu Zhang have the experience on the battlefield and on the frontier before and after the founding of the People's Republic of China? Great military exploits. In the army, it is easy to get promoted in times of war, but in times of peace, you have to rely on your ability and opportunities. Having lived in the army for a long time, Feng Qingxiu knew all about the ways here. I have finally discovered that knowledgeable soldiers are promoted much faster than illiterate soldiers or soldiers with only a primary school education. Because they encounter more opportunities, they will be trained as cadres. Those officers who graduated from universities in the army are more qualified than ordinary people. It's easier to be taken seriously, Zhang Xiaoyu said, although it cannot be generalized, this situation accounts for a large proportion. Feng Qingxiu smiled and said, if there is a chance, let Tianwan go to study. He has a high school education, and his actual knowledge reserve is far better than that of ordinary college students. He was unable to go to university due to his composition problems, and it was only thanks to your blessing that he successfully enlisted in the army. Today, doesn't our country have a military university? I remember that military officers can enroll. Zhang Xiaoyu sighed, Tianwan is not at that level, he must be at least the regiment level or above. Then let Tianjun work harder and strive for it when he reaches the level. No matter when and where, a diploma is very important. Officers who go to military universities for further studies all become senior generals after they graduate, with a bright future. Lu Tianjun has the brains and ability, and with the status of Lu Zhang and Zhang Yun, the possibility of learning is much greater than that of ordinary people. It's not that they use the back door, but that under fair conditions, others wouldn't dare to use tricks to make him lose the election on purpose, or to usurp his competitive quota. Zhang Xiaoyu nodded and said, when he comes back, I will supervise him to study. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1734. Lu Tianwan and Zhang Xiaoyu are both adults and have married and started a business. They naturally have their own life plans. Feng Qingxiu said nothing more, but she felt sorry for Zhang Xiaoyu's injury, which was not a minor injury. Zhang Xiaoyu didn't care. The moment she saved people, she knew what consequences she would bear. Even if she retires, she is still worthy of this military uniform. After talking about the cold weather, Zhang Xiaoyu hurriedly asked the orderlies and nannies to cook and clean the room, making arrangements in an orderly manner. After dinner in the evening, she was very considerate and left the elderly and children to rest at home. She pushed Feng Qingxiu to Lu Jiang's side, winked and said, "Uncle, my room can't be accommodated. You can take Aunt to your place to rest. Grandpa, 3 grandpas, 3 grandma and a few children are staying here with me, so you just have to rest assured." Lu Erxiang opened his mouth. He was about to say that he would sleep with his parents, but Zhuang immediately covered his mouth and gave him a warning look. He swallowed the words in frustration. Zhuang released his hand and waved to his parents, "Dad, Mom, see you tomorrow." Lu Zhang pulled Feng Qingxiu out of Jiang's house without hesitation, leaving the guards far behind. At that time, the night was very dark and the stars were shining like bright diamonds inlaid on an endless piece of black satin, doing their best to set off a bright moon. It was foreseeable that the weather would be good tomorrow. Silver light poured down, allowing the couple to clearly see each other's voices and smiles. Feng Qingxiu took a long breath and said, "Every day I'm either working or having children. We've been apart for another 7 or 8 months. It's really been a long time since we've been together. This sudden situation makes me feel a little uncomfortable." Lu Zhang said seriously, "This shows that you have greatly ignored me for the sake of work and children." "You," Feng Qingxiu glared at him, looked back at the 2 guards, compared the distance, and felt that they couldn't hear their husband and wife's conversation, so she spoke again and whispered, "You think I don't want to be by your side for the rest of my life. If possible, I would love to be with you day and night, never leaving you." Her skin is still fair and smooth, like condensed fat like snow jade, her face is still beautiful and charming, like flowers and pearls, her bright eyes and white teeth are far more beautiful than the moonlight. Lu Jiang's heart beat so fast that it almost jumped out of his chest. He pressed his heart, but he couldn't stop his beating heart. After seeing her again after a long separation, he felt the same throb as when he saw his wife for the first time, and said hoarsely, "Then why are you still standing?" Feng Qingxiu naturally understood what he meant and held his arm. "A person of such an age is not afraid of being seen laughing at us." Lu Zhang sighed, really hoping that this period of catastrophe would end soon. Husband and wife are the closest people in the world, but they must always pay attention to the eyes of outsiders. The slightest intimate actions or words are like committing a heinous crime. The higher the position, the more people are in the spotlight, and the more cautious they need to be. Therefore, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu quickened their pace and arrived at their residence. Finally, they no longer had to bathe in the gaze of the guards. The August day was still a bit hot, and he was sweating after a busy day. Lu Zhang locked the door, adjusted the warm bath water, poured it into the bathtub that Feng Qingxiu took out from the space, and urged, "You take a bath first, relax, relax, I'll press your shoulders to see if there's something wrong with your muscles. Are you too busy to take care of your body?" Feng Qingxiu rubbed the muscles on both sides of his neck. He didn't even notice it, it was really stiff. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1735. Lu Jiang's fingers were very rough, but they were very hot wherever they landed. He pressed them on the skin behind his shoulders. After a moment, the heat on his fingertips turned into a raging flame. Feng Qingxiu heard a rough gasp, turned her head and was kissed by him. Mouth. A little farewell is better than a newlywed, the ancients will not deceive me. As soon as Feng Qingxiu thought of this sentence, she fell into confusion and confusion. From the bathtub to the bed, she was so tired that she didn't even want to move her fingers. Lu Jiang's low laughter sounded in her ears. Did you neglect training in the South China Sea Fleet? Your physical strength is not as good as before. When I get older, I will be a grandma. Lu Jiang kissed her cheek, like kissing a shelled egg, and then turned her face to face his eyes. In his eyes, there was only a flower blooming at night, which was charming and charming, making people's hearts tremble. Only he knew how soft and boneless she was. How can there be such a young and beautiful grandma in the world? Let me see. Feng Qingxiu threw herself into his arms. I haven't seen you for a few months, Zhang, you have changed. After marriage, she was always busy, doing many things over and over again, so dull that she was almost numb. Suddenly she felt the passion of her youth, like lava that had found an opportunity and gush out. Lu Jiang gently stroked her smooth back. It's not a few months, it's more than half a year. Work, children, family, and interpersonal relationships take up most of our lives. I suddenly feel that if we continue like this, there will be no relationship between husband and wife. What feelings are there? Starting today, we all need to make changes, pay less attention to others, and care more about each other. The youngest triplets are 7 years old, and they will have their own classmates and friends. Studying takes up most of their time, and parents no longer need to take care of them in every detail like when they were just waiting to be fed. Feng Qingxiu didn't know how bright her smile was at this moment. Her eyebrows were curved and her eyes were sparkling. Although she has been used to spending most of her time on trivial matters at home, and is used to not being able to have intimate behaviors or sweet words when she goes out, she still has a hope in her heart that she can express the love between husband and wife as she pleases and stay together forever. The romance and passion of time will not fade away with time and age. Okay, let's change together. It's not too late to start now. Feng Qingxiu stared at his face. He was in his best years as a man. He didn't have the youthfulness of young people or the decline of old people. He was mature and steady, with great charm. Lu Jiang turned over and pressed her down, placing a series of kisses on her face and neck, and continued, the night is still very long. Although he was over 10 years old, he never slacked off in training, and his physical strength was so amazing that when Feng Qingxiu woke up the next day, it was already 3 o'clock in the morning. There was no trace of Lu Jiang on his pillow, and there was something he left behind on the bedside table. A note. Feng Qingxiu rubbed her waist, with a sweet smile on her face unconsciously. After drinking a glass of water, tidying up the house carefully, washing up, putting the bathtub into the space, and changing into clean clothes, she picked up the note, which was written in a colorful way. Meal is on the table, meetings during the day, lunch in the cafeteria, wait for me to come back tonight. Feng Qingxiu pursed her lips and smiled, her face glowing. She opened the veil on the dining table and saw a thermos bucket, an egg, a multi-grain steamed bun and a plate of pickles. The thermos bucket contained thick rice porridge, about the size of a bowl. Feng Qingxiu poured it into the lunch box, drank it slowly, and ate the rest of the food, leaving only half a plate of pickles. After washing the dishes and changing clothes, Feng Qingxiu raised her hand to look at the time. It was already 11:30. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1736. Feng Qingxiu was just thinking about whether to go to Jiang's house to have a meal or go to the cafeteria to settle the matter, when she saw Zibao coming. Mom, my sister-in-law asked me to call you home for dinner. Zibao is already half a head taller than his mother. Feng Qingxiu has to raise her eyes to talk to him. Without him, the original owner was malnourished when he was young. When he was 18, he was only 1.56 meters tall. He was short and thin. Feng Qingxiu was still the same. After time travel, I worked hard to replenish my nutrition. Before my height was finalized, I increased 6 to 7 centimeters. Now I am only 1.62 meters. Fortunately, I enlarged the size of my clothes when I made them. Zibao lowered his head and saw the envious look on his mother's face and her height comparing gesture. After thinking for a moment, he understood. He immediately couldn't laugh or cry, "Mom, you can grow taller if you eat more at noon." Feng Qingxiu patted his arm, "Do you think I'm a child? Wouldn't it be a joke to grow up at such an old age?" Zibao put his arms around her shoulders and said, "Even if you don't grow taller, you still have to eat. Mom, let's go. Your eldest son is cooking today and has cooked several dishes. Come and review them." Feng Qingxiu said happily, "My son cooks vegetables, and I can eat half a bowl of rice more." "Only half a bowl? Shouldn't it be 2 more bowls of rice? You want to push me to death? You evil boy," Feng Qingxiu reproached, but could not hide the look of relief on her face. "Others live frugally and eat according to the amount every day. I eat 2 more bowls. I suffer, and so do others. It would feel unfair." Zibao whispered, "When will the planned economy be abolished?" Feng Qingxiu was stunned, and quickly looked around, and found that no one was passing by, so she gently squeezed his arm. "Why are you saying these words? If someone hears it, you will definitely get into big trouble." "Why do you think so?" Zibao sighed, "In the past 2 years, I have carefully observed that it is harmful and useless to continue. Without abolishing the planned economy, it is impossible to promote economic development and improve the fighting spirit of all walks of life. Continuing to engage in collective production will only make most of the some farmers are cheating and cheating. Our brigade is so strict that we can't prevent this from happening. The grain output of our private plots has always been higher than that of the collective. Don't say this in front of outsiders, and don't reveal even a single word." However, when her son mentioned this, Feng Qingxiu also thought of the situation in her hometown and asked, "How is our brigade's harvest this year? Let's throw it away fertilizer." Zibao perked up and said, "Mom, chemical fertilizer is indeed a good thing. The yield of crops that are sprinkled with chemical fertilizer has almost doubled." Before others could react, my uncle and grandpa organized people to buy chemical fertilizer during his busy schedule. The note should be approved by my godfather, who is now the second in command in Huihei City. If chemical fertilizers can be promoted and grain production can be increased, the current situation will definitely be alleviated. Feng Qingxiu was also very happy. That's good, food is the main thing. Although some people say that grains sprinkled with chemical fertilizers have consequences, and the decline of the Chinese people's physical condition is obvious to all, but in the face of hunger, who cares about this? Eating a full meal with an open belly is everyone's dream nowadays. With Grandpa's permission, I wrote to the old leader Grandpa specifically mentioning this matter. Grandpa wrote back to me and said that he was going to take this matter up for a meeting and that a fertilizer plant would be built in the future. Zibao was beaming, "The benefits, it's huge. When a fertilizer factory is established, many jobs can be created, and the fertilizer produced can increase food production, and the subsequent benefits will be endless." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1737. Having said this, Zibao sighed and lowered his voice. "If we can change the current collective farming model, which is to divide the fields into households, I think the food can be doubled. After paying the public food, the remaining food will be your own. Yes, who wouldn't work harder and more diligently to serve the crops? Collective farming will only deplete the morale. If restrictions can be relaxed to allow everyone to raise chickens, ducks, geese, sheep, and pigs, the development of non-staple food will be promoted, and farmers will have income, which can also be supplemented. Nutrition, urban residents do not need to limit the supply. Feng Qingxiu looked her son up and down. Is this what you think? Or is it someone else who told you? Of course, these are all my own thoughts. I observed the results based on the current situation. Mom, don't worry, I only told my grandfather, not anyone else. Although Zibao is young, he understands the pros and cons. Even when he confided in his mother, he did it outside and now, rather than in front of the Zhang family, because he was worried that the walls had ears and word would spread. It's different outside. The space is vast, and there aren't many passers-by, and they won't come up to them to listen to them whispering. If someone comes, they can immediately interrupt the conversation between mother and son. Feng Qingxiu was very surprised. Unknowingly, her son had grown to this point. His mind, his knowledge, and his thoughts are far ahead of this era. Of course, he owes it to the elderly people around him. It is their teachings that made Zibao what he is today. Under the constraints of a special era, some people follow the trend and follow the rules, while others see the pros and cons and do not agree blindly. Zibao is the latter. He has seen the shortcomings of the planned economy and has new ideas. Unfortunately, they are not suitable for this era. Feng Qingxiu can only remind him to keep it in mind and wait for opportunities. Dad, you taught Zibao so well. When Feng Qingxiu arrived at Jiang's house, this was the first thing she said when she saw Father Lu. Before that, she was worried that Zibao spent most of his time in his hometown. He lived in the military compound for a relatively short time and did not make many close friends. In the future, he was worried that Zibao would lack connections in this area. After all, the compound, the relationship between children is cultivated since childhood. It is relatively simple and easier for them to remember for a lifetime. Er Xiang has a large group of good brothers. Now she doesn't worry anymore. She is strong and her connections are secondary. The development of the Lu family will only get better and better. When the old people are rehabilitated one after another, the benefits will be huge. Father Lu smiled and said, if I don't teach my grandson, who will teach me? Of course, your teachers and the others have also put in a lot of effort. Zibao has so much to learn, and he also brought a lot of homework assigned by them when he came out this time. Make up for him when you have time. Feng Qingxiu nodded heavily. I'll get more good things to send back to my hometown, and you and your teacher can eat more. These elderly people are national treasures and must be taken good care of. Human hearts are made of flesh. If I treated them well before with a little selfishness mixed in, then now that we have been together for a long time, our feelings have already surpassed everything. No matter how many benefits we will get in the future, they will not be as good as my son who has just grown up. Of joy. Returning to Lu Jiang's residence in the evening, Feng Qingxiu couldn't wait to share her son's excellence with him. Lu Jiang felt very proud. This guy looks like me. Feng Qingxiu laughed at his wife for selling melons. How could she praise herself so much? After the words came out, Lu Jiang said plausibly, like father, like son. Why are you just bragging? Of course, there is another saying that a person is better than a person who is better than someone who is good at it. This shows how satisfied he is with Zibao. Feng Qingxiu was very happy. Don't all parents want their children to become talented? The couple were proud for a while, and Lu Jiang suddenly said, there will be a dance in a few days, you go with me. After hearing this, Feng Qingxiu's eyes lit up. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1738. It has been more than 10 years since I came to this era. In the first few years, I was either living in my hometown or living with the army at the border. When Lu Jiang's rank reached a high level, Feng Qingxiu also had her own job. During this period, she had to take care of her children. She was too busy every day to be able to do anything. And because of the special period, various agencies, units, and troops had already cancelled the dance, so she did not attend the dance. Suddenly there was such an opportunity to appear and dance with Lu Zhang. Of course, Feng Qingxiu was not willing to let it go. To be honest, she was very curious about the dance. After learning that the dress code was casual, Feng Qingxiu began to prepare for the dance. It was impossible to change her hairstyle or put on makeup, so she just put effort into her clothes. It needs to look good, and the style cannot be beyond this era. Feng Qingxiu thought carefully and made herself a pearl white cotton and linen shirt and a pair of gray-green overalls, also made of cotton and linen. The straight leg pants were relatively loose, just like the wide leg pants of later generations. Overalls are actually overalls, which are a popular style nowadays. Most of them are made of labor cloth. The two pieces of clothing were washed and ironed, and Feng Qingxiu tried them on the night before the dance. Not only did they not cover up her slender and graceful figure, they actually made her have an outstanding temperament and a kind of elegant and dignified beauty. Lu Jiang's eyes were full of love. He nodded and said, "It looks great." He looked around and felt that something was missing. He suddenly slapped his forehead, stood up and went to dig through his suitcase. He took out a very ordinary small wooden box and took out a pair of jade bracelets. The jade of this pair of bracelets is crystal clear, the structure is tight and fine, and the whole body is green and almost dripping with water. Positive, dense, and evenly yang, with a base as clean as glass, the characteristics of the best jadeite. Lu Zhang skillfully put it on his wife's wrist, then took out a safety clasp that was obviously polished from the core material of the bracelet, and hung it on her chest, almost making her face green. Both the clothing style and jewelry are simple to the extreme. Extreme simplicity, but even more amazing beauty. Where did such good jade come from? It looks like new jade. Feng Qingxiu's eyes widened. A few months ago on a business trip, I went to the southwest military region and stayed in the border area for a few days. I accidentally saw someone selling jade privately on the black market, so I quietly collected some. This set is the best. I think you will wear it. It looks good. In addition, I have collected some uncarved jadeite materials and kept them at home. When the time comes, I will find a skilled jade carver to make jewelry for you and Fuebao. Lu Zhang took 2 steps back and looked at it for a moment, with a flash of admiration in his eyes, and said, "No wonder you lesbians like to wear jewelry very much. Sure enough, there is a big difference between wearing it and not wearing it, which makes you even more beautiful." Feng Qingxiu took out the mirror and took a look. Her cheeks were dizzy, and the jade color complemented each other, adding a luxurious and graceful aura. So what if it looks good? You can't wear it outside. Feng Qingxiu turned the bracelet, touched the safety buckle, and touched the jadeite. Her fingertips felt cool. By the time I can wear it, I will be really old. What a pity that you can't dress up as much as you want at your most beautiful age. Lu Zhangke, with its elegance and charm, any jewelry will never neglect you because of your age, it will always be your embellishment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1739. Commander of the Army, you are really good at talking. Feng Qingxiu was in a particularly comfortable mood, and her regrets disappeared immediately. She saluted him and said, "Commander of the Army, I sincerely invite you to dance with me. I haven't danced for a long time, so I need to practice first." With a beauty as beautiful as jade and a smile as beautiful as a flower, who could bear to refuse this invitation? Lu Zhang didn't dance with anyone else, so he was naturally willing to practice with his wife to avoid any embarrassment at the dance. The two of them have never eaten pork, but have they never seen a pig running? Lu Zhang briefly recalled the dance steps he had seen at the dance, and it quickly emerged. Feng Qingxiu was already good at simple ballroom dancing, and had seen the female soldiers in the art troupe practice, so she was even more familiar with it. After the dance, the love was deep, and inevitably there was another wave of love, and we stopped at midnight. Early the next morning, Feng Qingxiu looked radiant, as if she was in her 20s, wearing prepared clothes but no jewelry. Lu Jiang was wearing a military uniform, with a tall figure, a tough face, and a very dignified manner. He doesn't have to go on missions now, which reduces the chance of exposure to wind and Sunday. In addition, when people see him and his wife, they always say that the age difference between them is too big. He has insisted on using cream for the past 6 months, and he looks a few years younger than before. Feng Qingxiu especially liked the way her husband looked in military uniform, she loved it to the core of her being. "Commander of the army, you are so impressive today," Feng Qingxiu praised before going out. In fact, she wanted to say handsome. Handsome without age restrictions. Whether a man is handsome or not depends on his military uniform. The seriousness on Lu Jiang's face suddenly melted. "Of course, you can't embarrass my wife." The two complimented each other for a moment and laughed together. Lu Jiang brought his wife to a dance for the first time and attracted a lot of people's attention as soon as he entered the auditorium. The higher the position and the more powerful you are, the later you will arrive. Who dares to ask the leader to wait for him? So when they arrived, the old leaders hadn't arrived yet. Only some cotters who were at the same level as Lu Jiang or slightly lower than him and their family members or dancing partners were present. Many people have only heard of Feng Qingxiu by name but never seen him in person. Unlike Lu Jiang, who often came to the capital for meetings after he was transferred to the capital military region, Feng Qingxiu almost never appeared in social situations in the capital. Even though he lived in the capital during the 2 years of his studies, the people he often visited were relatives and friends and those Guo Yan had met with himself. Some old revolutionaries and their families, and it was an informal occasion. During this period, when Lu Jiang came to the capital for meetings, there were several activities that he could take his wife to participate in. Unfortunately, the time collided with school time, so Feng Qingxiu naturally took care of her studies first. Anyway, time is long and there are plenty of opportunities, Feng Qingxiu thought at the time. Most of the people who came first saw Feng Qingxiu for the first time. At first they thought it was Lu Jiang's dance partner from the art troupe. After hearing his introduction, they realized it was Feng Qingxiu, and they couldn't help being surprised. With her slender figure, white and tender skin, delicate and beautiful face, and outstanding temperament, is she really the wife Lu Jiang married more than 10 years ago? Everyone who has met Feng Qingxiu said that she looks good, so she is too good, right? The same style of clothes, although made of different materials, always looks rigid when worn by others, but it looks just right on her, making it look better than the fashionable clothes shipped from Shanghai. Some people envy it, some people can't stand it. Su Maixiang ran directly to them and looked up and down for a moment, her eyes filled with uncertainty. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1740. It was the first time that Feng Qingxiu saw her since Su Maixiang and Shen Qing divorced and left the Wuchen army. Her brows raised involuntarily. She didn't know whether she came to the dance based on her mother's family or her new husband's family. What surprised her the most was that Su Maixiang wore a light green floral slant neck cardigan dress. The collar and front are edged with green fabric, and a belt of the same color is tied around the waist. The lower body is a pleated skirt, about the length of the calf, and is paired with a pair of black leather sandals. Wearing such a skirt on Su Maixiang immediately added a bit of beauty. "Comrade Qingxiu, how do your clothes compare to my skirt?" An unclear look flashed in Su Maixiang's eyes. Feng Qingxiu suddenly remembered a historical record and said with a smile, "There is no comparison. My clothes are just ordinary shirts and overalls. Any tailor can make them. The only difference is the material. But your skirt is special, novel and beautiful. After listening to Feng Qingxiu's words, Su Maixiang felt a little disappointed. Despite this, Su Maixiang quickly cheered up and said with a smile, skirts like this are particularly popular this summer and will be promoted nationwide in more than a month. Comrade Qingxiu, you are so thin, you must look better in it. How about I give you one first? Feng Qingxiu's heart sank. It was neither rejection nor acceptance. Rejection is not conducive to the current situation, and immediate acceptance is not conducive to future development. She quickly came up with an idea and smiled slightly, Comrade Su Maixiang, as you said, a skirt is not cheap. Money is a trivial matter. The main reason is that cloth tickets are hard to come by. Comrade Lu Zhang does not allow me to accept things from outsiders casually. I feel that the influence is so bad that I can't help but wait for the promotion before buying it. Lu Zhang said solemnly, yes, we can buy it ourselves. He was so powerful that Su Maixiang was a little scared and laughed awkwardly, then I will save money. But thank you for your kindness. Feng Qingxiu's attitude was soft. It was her first time attending a dance, and the topic was this dress. She felt there was no need to offend Su Maixiang at this time. It is better to offend a gentleman than a villain. It is better to be cautious in everything. Su Maixiang said hurriedly, if someone calls me, I'll leave first. You can do whatever you want. There were quite a few lesbians wearing skirts like her, and Su Maixiang quickly walked among them, without even asking how Shenqing and her own son Shenfeng were living now. The coldness of his heart is evident. Su Maixiang has remarried, Lu Zhang whispered in his wife's ear. Feng Qingxiu was stunned and asked in a low voice, who are you marrying? Who else is willing to marry someone like her? Lu Zhang said calmly, as long as the Su family is happy. Feng Qingxiu understood clearly and whispered, Shenqing still gives her money on a monthly basis? How can she be embarrassed to take it? Lu Zhang sneered, what's the shame? Getting married doesn't necessarily mean that she can get all of her new husband's salary. If she wants to wear fashionable clothes and shoes, she will naturally have to rely on Shenqing's alimony. Seeing the fragrance of Su Mei, Lu Zhang became angry. Shenqing is such a promising person, but she was almost ruined by Su Maixiang. Shenfeng was not taught well by her. Shenqing spent a lot of effort to change his temper, but in the end he still suffered. Without his mother's influence, it can only be said that he is not as bad as before. He is not really a good boy, far worse than Yayan.